Yeah, let's bring Grant McAuley. It's brought to you by Mark Spain Real Estate. Get a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. 855-299-SOLD. That's 855-299-SOLD. So, Grant McAuley, are you there, brother?
I am here.
Are you sold on Dylan Dodd? It seems like he's that. Every spring, a guy seems to emerge that nobody really thought much of, but fifth starter, maybe? Or Gwinnett to start the year?
Yeah. No, I think we're getting some news here right before we even get started with the Braves making the decision to option both Ian Anderson and Bryce Elder to AAA Gwinnett today.
Whoa.
That clears the path for Jared Schuster, the Braves' top pitching prospect, as well as fellow lefty pitching prospect Dylan Dodd. And both of these guys, you look at what they've done this spring. Schuster, 1 run, 8 2/3 innings. Dodd, 8 1/3 shutout innings. Really, the only trouble he ran into was against a loaded Dominican WBC squad. Right. But overall, I mean, Dodd has dominated. 5 hits, no walks, 11 strikeouts. Schuster also better than a strikeout per frame. This is not a small development, but it must be, and I put this on Twitter, you got to reiterate, you're not going to get through the season with 5 starters, so everybody plus Michael Soroka at some point could play a role here. But as far as developments we've seen this spring and going out and throwing the ball well and getting that opportunity, it looks like Schuster and Dodd are going to have a couple of weeks to prove who can be the 5th man of this rotation.
Yeah, describe Dylan Dodd's repertoire, stuff, velocity, all the things.
Yeah, mid-90s is typically where that fastball sits, but this guy, he pounds the strike zone. He has a very good breaking ball, so he's able to change speeds well, mix in that change, and he's just a guy that when you look at working quickly and efficiently might be the best way to describe him, but the fact that he lives in and around the strike zone, I think that's something that has kind of been the thing that has separated him from perhaps some other Braves pitching prospects and some pitchers in camp this year that might have struggled with their command at times.
And I know that Jared Schuster, he's a guy that pitched in college, and I think is the timeline a little bit different because you are getting more of a finished product. He's a little bit older, and they feel he's ready to roll?
Well, the funny thing is that Dodd is already 24 years old. He was a college prospect as well, or a college product, if you will, but he wasn't a first-round draft pick like Schuster was. So kind of to your point, I feel like both of these guys, there wasn't much separating them. Schuster got to AAA last year, made 9 starts, 10 overall appearances. Dodd only got the 1 start at Gwinnett, so the bulk of his season was in the middle minors for the Braves. But you just look at the results. Dodd misses more bats. Schuster, I think the strikeout numbers were really nice prior to his jump to AAA. He was still effective, but the strikeouts dropped notably, about 20 or so %. So missing bats is a huge thing in the big leagues. And that might seem like an obvious statement, but I preface this next statement that if you are going to live in the strike zone and throw a lot of strikes, you better have something that can keep hitters off balance. I think Dodd has that. I think Schuster's changeup is one of the best pitches of any prospect in the Braves minor league system. So you've got a couple of really nice options here, and I think it's really fascinating that the Braves are going to go ahead and try to explore that. It kind of feels like 2019 when they broke camp with Kyle Wright and with Bryce Wilson in their rotation. Now, neither one of those guys stayed there for an incredibly long time, so knock on wood, hopefully that's different for whoever might be the 5th starter. Right. But the Braves have not been bashful about giving somebody that early opportunity if they showed they were up to it in spring training camp.
I know we've spent probably 2 years, 3 years talking about Ian Anderson, what he is and what he isn't, because he was kind of pressed into service, early in the COVID year in the postseason. It just doesn't signal, a checkered flag on his time with the Braves, does it?
No, I don't believe so, and I don't think that it should either. I mean, last year was a notable step back for him, and just like I talked about, the fact that he wasn't missing enough bats, he wasn't getting enough strikeouts, he wasn't able to limit damage, and he had so many command issues, that's what led to his season being just kind of a real step back in general for him. It was really the first time he had run into any kind of roadblock in his professional career. In the minors, he did not allow very many home runs. Few of those started popping up last year, and then you also had, again, the walks and the fact that there were a lot of free base runners on, and teams were figuring him out second and third time through. Really for him, I think that the work in the winter just needs to continue as he goes down to AAA and works through it. And, we don't know when he could be back. We don't know what it could look like. We don't know what the circumstances will be, but he's way too young. I mean, he and Dylan Dodd are basically the same age, so if you kind of want to a check mark of who's where and how long in the tooth these guys are. There's not a lot separating them age-wise.